Hey, have you ever watched one of those movies where you see one scene and there's a cup in the scene, and the very next scene, for some reason, the cup's gone? It's called continuity. And that's the detail stuff that you see in movies that all of us, we see this stuff and we don't really pay attention to it, but it catches our attention. And that's the thing about the golf swing as well, is that we gotta pay attention to the details because they affect the entire golf swing. And that's why I produced a product called the Domino Effect. Now the Domino Effect, it's really a culmination of my last few years of work. And let me tell you about it for a second, because what I've been working on over the last 3 years has been the 3D, three-dimensional view of the golf swing. Now what is that? That's basically getting into as much detail as possible on exactly how the body works when you move a golf club. I'll give you a quick example, because three-dimensional work on a golf swing, there's things called matchups. Matchups mean that, for example, if I turn my body and I tilt my body, you see my pelvis shifted slightly forward. So my pelvis is reacting to the tilt of my body. So the pelvis movement matches up with torso movement. There's a matchup there, which means that if I incorrectly move my pelvis, there's no way I can tilt my torso. So three-dimensional work on a golf swing is why I created this thing called the Domino Effect. Because like a set of dominoes, when one thing starts cascading, when one thing moves incorrectly, it goes through the entire golf swing process. And the domino effect can work in the other way as well. That means if I get everything correct, it helps everything else be perfect throughout the swing. I'm going to give you one quick example of what I mean by domino effect, and you're going to get very surprised at this little bit of detail, just like in the movies, this little bit of detail and how it can matter. So first things first, let's talk about the lead thumb position. I'll bet right now that you take for granted the position of your lead thumb. You've heard people talk about it. You don't know if your thumb is long or short or medium or whatever, but I'm going to give you some suggestions here on where to place the lead thumb as one of my first suggestions and the first domino you might want to look at. So look at my thumb position here. I'm going to bring a short thumb into effect here. So I'm going to bring the thumb up, which I call a short thumb. Notice there's no gap between my index finger and my thumb. It's very tight. The thumb is very bridged up. And what it does, it's putting stress on the upper joint of my wrist. So there's the first thing that I recognize is how that's a different pressure point than I normally have. But let's just go from here. Now, when I try to move my arm from a short thumb, move my arm, okay? So it means I go into a backswing and move my arm has a hard time straightening because my thumb, there's so much pressure because of my wrist. My wrist can't hinge because of that thumb position, and it's putting pressure throughout my arm. Well, not only is it putting pressure on my wrist and my arm and my elbow, it's also affecting my shoulder joint. Now, if my shoulder joint gets in a weak position, it's affecting my body position. So that simple position of my thumb is working its way up my arm into my shoulder. Now it's going to work into my body metrics. So to me, that's a problem. That's a domino. That's a problem. Now watch. I'm going to put my short thumb here and my arm being slightly bent. Now watch what happens. I'm going to straighten my thumb. I'm going to push it down and notice how my arm straightens. See that? Now I'm very strong here. I'm in a strong position. My arm is solid. I'm using different muscles. The different muscles of my arms are supporting my elbow. My tricep is now engaged, not my shoulder, and now I'm in a much stronger position at the top. So I went from this thumb position to a longer thumb position, which allowed the arm to be straighter. If you have trouble straightening your arm at the top, getting in this position, it might be your thumb. There's the domino effect in play. Now, I just did this on my training club, and the reason I did that is because I put a flat spot and a marking for the thumb and a place for your hand. So I created a training club which teaches long thumb. And I'm not going to say long thumb, teaches the proper length of thumb because that would be too long. So the proper length of thumb, and then teaches the trail hand. So my training aids are designed to help you accomplish what you need to, and you don't run into a lot of problems in your golf swing. But that was one example, just the lead hand position, which I had to learn too. I had to figure out with a proper thumb position, but that's how important the little things are to the golf swing. So go check it out today. When you get a chance, run out there, put your thumb down a little further, create a little gap right there in your hand, then set your trail hand on there and see if it doesn't help your lead arm position. That's a great example of the domino effect. That's why I created the product.